So a judge in Washington, D.C., made it pretty clear any federal attempt to seize control of D.C.'s police department, it collides with the city's home rule law. And after that warning, federal officials sort of began backing off the language that implied they'd taken over. So the bottom line is Chief Pamela Smith stays in command of the Metropolitan Police Department, right? Appointed by Mayor Muriel Bowser and accountable to DC residents. Let's watch the full video and I'll share my thoughts at the end.
Court, we made clear that under the Home Rule Act, the authority to appoint a chief of police sits squarely with the mayor, and that the right to control the local policing of our city sits with the mayor and the chief of police, notwithstanding the government, the president, and the attorney general's efforts to suggest that they had taken control of our police force and put somebody in to run our police force. I'm very gratified that the judge today recognized that that is flagrantly illegal, that it violates the clear language of the Home Rule Act, and that for all intents and purposes, the chief of police remains the chief of police. Pamela Smith, appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the council, remains the chief of police for the District of Columbia in command and control of the more than 3,100 professional officers that work for MPD. My sincere hope is that we don't have to be back fighting over this issue again. The government, the federal government, recognizing that the judge was going to have to make a ruling on this issue, actually withdrew and said that they're going to rewrite the language that suggested that the person from the DEA was running the police department, which was illegal and clearly not going to happen. So the key for today is to know that our effort to avoid a hostile takeover of our police force is not going to happen. Chief Smith remains in control of the police department under the supervision of our mayor. Very important win for home rule today.
I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C. I am pleased to stand with our Attorney General, Brian Schwalb, and his capable team at the Office of the Attorney General, as well as members of my team. We are grateful for the hard work that was done when we received an order late into the evening, yesterday evening, that we read as plainly against the Home Rule Charter. Our teams worked throughout the night. The judge herself commented on the hard work that was done and presented in the cases made. And I am encouraged by the judge's remarks and the federal government making the changes that were suggested, and the judge's willingness to rule if that's not satisfactory. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take about a couple of seconds. My expectation is that the key issue with respect to control and command of our MPD has been resolved today, and that it is clear as a matter of law that it is under the chief of police appointed by the mayor.
Hey, Brian, Bob Barnard over here from Fox 5. Are you concerned at all that when President Trump gets wind of what the judge ruled, he's going to come right back and do it again?
Look, all we can do as local officials elected and accountable to the residents of the District of Columbia is to stand up for home rule in our law. Even the President of the United States, even the Attorney General of the United States needs to comply with the law. And the Home Rule Charter and the Home Rule Act is very clear with respect to when the President can request limited services of MPD, limited by time, limited by emergency circumstances, and limited for federal purposes. And in all cases, those services must be requested to the mayor to be provided by the chief of police, not a hostile takeover of our police. And if it means standing up to the president, standing up to the attorney general to ensure that the laws of our country are followed, we will do that. My hope is that we do not have to be back here relitigating it. Our local law enforcement has worked collaboratively with federal law enforcement from time immemorial. This is nothing new, and it's part of what the residents of the District of Columbia deserve is a cohesive law enforcement effort, MPD with our federal enforcement partners. We don't need a hostile takeover from the federal government to do what we do every day. And my hope is we can get past this and get back to doing the hard work of continuing to drive crime down in our city, because any crime in our city is too much. We have to continue to be focused on that, and my hope is that we put that to bed today.
Mr. Attorney General, Madam Mayor, what's your expectation of what happens with both the homeless in the district and people without status. Do they both need to be worried that DC police are now enforcing rules that prior to this they've not been?
Look, we know that the law under the Home Rule Act allows the federal government during a course of an emergency to request the services of MPD in furtherance of a federal purpose. And whether it's clearing encampments that are adjacent to or near federal land or that might interfere with federal employees, if it's enforcement of immigration laws that are under the federal, we will have to confront that as it comes. We have made very clear, very clear that we have laws in our city and that the services that MPD provides in furtherance of a request from the president, those services must comply with the law.
Mr. Attorney General, Luke Barr with ABC News. Are you surprised? Can you, first of all, take us inside? Can you take us inside the negotiations with the Justice Department? It was a prolonged negotiation. What was that? What were those conversations like? And then for the mayor, were you surprised to see the Attorney General's memo and executive order last night, given the sort of what appeared to be cooperation between federal and state authorities?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the confidential settlement discussions and negotiations that went on today.
We were surprised. I think you know that we reached out immediately to the Attorney General as the President's designee. We had a productive meeting. She described it as a productive meeting. And without notice, we got the order.
Back from NBC News here. Are you concerned about potentially escalating tensions between the federal agents and D.C. residents as we go into this weekend?
What we know is that D.C. residents are worried and concerned, and we have a surge of federal officers. Chief Smith's job during this week has been to make sure that if we have and while we have federal officers, that they are being used strategically. And while we aren't controlling them, we do have the ability to influence how they're being deployed.
Mayor Bowser. Thanks. No more questions. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so here's why that matters. Under the Home Rule Act, DC elects the mayor and council to run local government. The mayor has the authority to appoint the police chief, and the chief runs day-to-day policing. Now, Congress can meddle in DC laws, and the federal government can request help for strictly federal purposes, but request is not replace. Local control of local policing is the rule, it's not the exception. According to DC's Attorney General, what's his name? Brian Schwalb, Schwalb, the federal government apparently pushed language suggesting it had taken control of MPD and installed an outside official to run the department. The city sued, arguing that this was a hostile takeover in plain violation of home rule. So in court today, the judge basically signaled agreement with the basic point. The law is explicit about who controls MPD and all that. After that, federal officials pulled back and said they would rewrite the language that implied a takeover. Chief Smith remains the chief, full stop. Mayor Bowser and AG Schwalb, they both said the goal isn't to fight for the sake of fighting. DC has always worked with federal partners on federal missions. That cooperation isn't new, and it's not going away. What the city won't accept is a federal end run around the law, especially one that swaps limited requests for help with "we run your police now." There's a massive difference between coordination and control, isn't there? Okay, so let me try to be precise about the law here. The Home Rule framework allows the president to request limited MPD assistance for federal purposes, often time-bound and tied to emergencies, things like, protecting federal facilities or supporting a specific federal operation. Even then, the request goes to the mayor and services are provided by MPD under the chief's command. See, that's the channel the law created to balance federal needs with local democracy. There is no plain language permission slip for installing a federal appointee to run the city's police force. Today's course correction, I think it matters for 3 reasons. First, democracy. DC residents deserve a say in who runs their police through the mayor they elect and the council that confirms a chief. If the federal government can just swoop in and pick a boss for MPD, local accountability, it just evaporates. You didn't vote for that person and you can't fire them. Second, public safety. Clear chains of command save lives, right? Confusion over who's in charge, who signs off on deployments, and who answers to whom. It just creates delays and mixed messages at the worst possible moments. Whatever your politics, no city benefits from dueling command structures out on the street. Third, precedent. Because if a federal takeover of a local police department can be manufactured by a memo, then, every city with a federal building is suddenly vulnerable. Today it's DC, tomorrow could be anywhere a political fight breaks out or something. The judge's pushback and the quick rewrite helped slam that door shut. Now, look, you'll hear a counter argument, that crime is serious and the Fed should step in if locals aren't getting it done. Urgency is fair, but, urgency still has to follow the law. The law says make a request, specify the federal purpose, keep it time limited, route it through the mayor, and let MPD carry it out under its chief. That's how you get extra hands without breaking home rule. It's how you support public safety without, undermining local democracy. So, okay, what happens next? Well, best case, I guess, the revised directive respects home rule in black and white. Federal agencies and MPD coordinate the way they always have. Targeted, time limited, and for federal purposes with requests properly routed to the mayor and executed by Chief Smith's team. The political noise dies down and everyone gets back to the work of driving crime down. Base case. There's some additional legal wrangling and paperwork and stuff, but the practical reality holds. Chief Smith remains in command, MPD keeps cooperating on federal missions, and both sides operate inside the lanes the law already drew. Worst case, I suppose there's another attempt to stretch the language back toward control instead of coordination. If that happens, you should expect the city to head back to court fast. Because once you blur the line between assist and take over, you invite confusion on the ground and, constitutional headaches in the courtroom. So for DC residents, here's what to watch for. Now, 1, the exact wording of any revised federal directive. Does it clearly request assistance, or does it sort of sneak control into the margins? 2, any new filings in the city's case, those will tell you how confident each side is and where the judge is leaning. 3, practical deployment updates from MPD and the mayor are federal requests being handled through the proper channels with defined scope and timelines. Through all of this, you just have to remember what Mayor Bowser and AG Schwalb emphasized. DC works with federal partners all the time. Cooperation is normal. What's not normal is pretending cooperation means the feds get to run local policing. That's just not how the law works, and it's not how democracy works. So here's the bottom line. Today was a win for home rule, a win for clear command, and really a win for the idea that even the most powerful offices in the country still have to follow the law. Chief Pamela Smith remains in charge of MPD, appointed by DC's elected mayor and confirmed by the council. The federal government can request help for federal missions, but it can't rewrite local democracy by memo. Do you think Congress should go further and strengthen DC's autonomy so this kind of fight doesn't pop up again? Or is the current home rule framework enough when courts enforce it? Let me know what you think, and stay tuned. We'll keep tracking every move.